And so it all comes back to this idea of, I guess, trying to keep impaired drivers off the road. And, and it seems that lawmakers or law enforcement is really kind of fixated on finding a biomarker to kind of determine cannabis impairment, sort of like a blood alcohol or breathalyzer. To your knowledge, are there any biomarkers that are reliable or that were close on for determining cannabis impairment, or is that still a bit of a holy grail?
Yeah, like if you're talking biological, like in some kind of fluid biomarkers, at present, no, we don't really have anything that's particularly good. So the most commonly looked at things are probably urine, blood, and oral fluid. Urine is probably the worst of the lot. We know that THC and its metabolites persist in urine for a really, really long time, particularly among regular users, comfortably over a month. Blood is not particularly good either. It can hang around in blood for extended periods of time. And this is largely because THC, so it's a lipophilic molecule, meaning that it likes to get into fat and sort of stay there. So it accumulates in people's fat stores and then just sort of slowly leaches into blood, meaning that it can be there for, again, weeks and sometimes longer after use. Oral fluid is a tricky matrix. It sort of has some benefits, I guess, in that it is the matrix that THC leaves most rapidly. So if you take someone who only very occasionally uses cannabis and administer an acute dose, you'll probably find that it persists in oral fluid for a few hours and then dissipates, which is kind of consistent with impairment. But there are a number of kind of significant limitations aside from that. For example, the first being that, so the only way that THC can end up in oral fluid is if it enters via direct contact. So you have to, have it smoked or, ingested in some way that it actually contacts the oral fluid, meaning that if you avoid that contact, say, for example, if the THC is encapsulated, you probably won't have any THC in oral fluid, which means it's not a marker of impairment at all. The other factor is that there's been really little research looking at oral fluid THC concentrations in regular cannabis users. And what seems to be the case is that whether THC is present in oral fluid in regular cannabis users is just it's completely variable. Sometimes it's there 12 hours later, sometimes it's not detected, and it's just a little bit all over the shop. So on the face of it, there are some advantages to that approach, but when you dig a little deeper, it sort of falls apart really quickly. So yeah, we don't currently have a particularly good way of identifying cannabis impaired drivers.